My 31 meters, wife's 33F best friend, 32F, is cheating on her husband, 36 meters, with his best friend, 37 meters. Would I be in the wrong for exposing it to her husband? Already crazy, I know. All of these people are in my friend circle too. To make it easier to understand, T equals wife's best friend, P equals her husband, V equals her husband's best friend. He and P got married 2 years ago, relationship has been a shambles since before they got married. Wife was matron of honor at T and P's wedding. No kids together, but T has kids from previous relationship. T has been cheating on P for at least 6 months until recently when V blocked her on all platforms and cut contacts after beginning to date a girl. She's not in our friend circle and also the mortal enemy of T. Now T has started to spout off about the affair to not only my wife but now her sister. Not because T feels guilty but because she caught feelings and feels hurt that V cut her out. When asked about coming clean to P, T continues to change the focus about how she's the victim with V. Of course my wife and T's sister keep telling her what she is doing to P is just wrong and she should come clean to P. I've already talked to V about how he's lost respect from me and this was just before he blocked her. It just pisses me off that P consistently gets the short end of the stick in every aspect. Too long didn't read. Friend is cheating on her husband with his best friend after being married for 2 years. I want to inform the husband about the affair. Should I tell P about the affair? If my friends didn't tell me, I would unfriend them as soon as I found out they kept it from me. The right thing to do is to tell him. He deserves to know. Yes, he's your friend, he deserves to know. If you were in P's shoes, would you want to know? This is the point I keep trying to make to my wife. My wife tells me it's not my place, then I tell her that if I was P and he knew, I'd be upset with him if he didn't tell me. He absolutely deserves to know. Don't be someone who covers for a cheater, that's gross. My wife, 29F, tells me, 30M, her feelings have changed, we have lost our connection. I am feeling like my world has exploded, and everything I was sure of in life is fading away. 2 days ago I came back from walking the dog and I overheard my wife having a work call, nothing too uncommon. Started cleaning the bathroom and overheard some of the conversation, on which I picked up some level of flirtation between both of them. I decided to confront her on that the same night. She said she has been battling with a change on her feelings for a while now, 6 to 9 months I tend to think. She started talking to this man at her work about 1 month ago and developed the feeling of the thrill of a new relationship, which she says she has lost with me. We've been married for 3.5 years, together for 6. Our story is a complicated one, fairy tale on paper. We met while we were studying and started dating, but her visa ran out. We continued dating long distance for 2 years until we got married, and moved in together 3 years ago. She said that through this time, we've been always building up to the next step, first the thrill of dating, then long distance yearning to be together, then once we moved in a new country building a life, then buying a house. Now that we've been established in our own home for about a year, she says she has lost the connection with me. For the last year she's been working like mad. Got a promotion at work which has always been important to her and I never skipped a beat supporting her when she worked long hours. I cook dinner for her every night, catch up on how her work is going and tell her I missed her and would like to spend more time together. But her work in the end always got first. She now has told me that she found herself not seeking to spend time with me, and instead enjoys more spending time with her friends. She says she doesn't know why she's feeling this way, and needs to work through it. She said she doesn't know if what she feels is romantic love for me or not. I am, of course, devastated. I love her like the first day, and thought that I was doing the right thing by giving her space to fulfill her career ambitions, but this seems to have created a distance between us that I was completely blindsided on. Up until 3 days ago, I couldn't be more sure that we were going to start a family very soon and grow older together. I still picture us with a family every day. She says she's committed to trying to make our marriage work. We've talked about counseling, and probably will go ahead with it. What else can I do to rebuild the spark? I have explained my feelings to her and how deeply hurt I am. but I will do everything in my power to rebuild this. The feeling I get from her is that she's really unsure about her feelings though. I'm sorry for the long post, hope that my stream of thought is more or less clear. Thank you. Too long didn't read. My wife tells me her feelings have changed over the last year after I caught her flirting with someone from work. She tells me she's committed to try to save our marriage, but I feel like everything I was sure of in life is crumbling under my feet. What can I do to rebuild the connection? Edit/update. Thank you all very much for your responses. A lot of you mentioned that the emotional affair needs to end. She committed to it the very same night I confronted her on it. We kept talking for the last few days and we committed to a plan, to spend more time together and build our relationship from there. It's going to be hard work. She is very careful in measuring her words not to give me false hopes of progress. Again, appreciate all your input. Look up affair proofing. Connections take maintenance, especially in long-term relationships. And it is very easy to form new connections with people we see every day at work, and then make it mean that maybe we're missing out on something. She needs to learn that she needs to work to keep your relationship airtight and not allow the risk of creating a spark with someone new, which will put your relationship at risk. Relationships take work and constant boundaries with the outside world to ensure they stay strong. She would need to put a stop to the growing flirtation with this other person and work with you to build the spark again if she wants to keep your relationship intact. Based on experience, I think she's rationalizing. I think it's far more likely she is attracted to her coworker and then decided on a rationalization that your marriage doesn't have that spark. In other words, her beginning an EA is dynamiting your marriage. The only way to begin to fix it is if this ends, and she deals with what it's going to take to be monogamous when she's going to be tempted by other people. Maybe there's problems you can work on, and there's always improvements you can make. It's not likely to be the problem, her behavior is going to be. You sound like a great guy. I rarely hear men that say they still love their partners like the first day they met. She is very lucky to have you. I know when affection is lacking for me I tend to grow distant from my partner. However, my first response is not to seek outside attention, it would be to have a discussion with my partner. I think you should get counseling as a couple. And instead enjoys more spending time with her friends. She started talking to this man at her work about 1 month ago and developed the feeling of the thrill of a new relationship, which she says she has lost with me. She enjoys spending time with the man she met at work. She says she doesn't know why she's feeling this way, and needs to work through it. She said she doesn't know if what she feels is romantic love for me or not. She knows the reason. She has feelings for her coworker. She isn't 100% sure that this other relationship will take off, so she wants you as an option. She says she's committed to trying to make our marriage work. Then you need to see her text messages with this other coworker. She needs to be transparent about what's been going on. There's more to the story here and you need to do some research on how to catch a cheater. I'm sorry you're going through this. What can I do to rebuild the connection? She needs to show you what's been going on with this other coworker, stop talking to him and begin to invest into you. Look up Jump Lady for some help. My parents want me, 32M, to move back in with them. I've got a bit of a weird one, just because I can't really find anyone in similar situations online. I went to college in the town I grew up in, but haven't lived there since. I've lived in 3 other towns over the last 10 to 11 years. I currently live about 950 miles away. Every time I come home to visit my parents it's like I'm making their whole year. They treat me like a prince, make lots of comments about how much they like having me around, make me feel downright guilty about leaving again, etc. I feel like I barely talk just out of the lack of having anything to say, so I'm not really offering much other than my presence. I've been visiting for the last 3 weeks due to COVID working flexibility, which is the longest I've visited since first moving away. They'll say things like, "We've really loved having you here, we thought you might be moving back in, I wish you could visit more often, I don't even want to think about you leaving again, etc. all the time. I know it comes from a good place, but it makes me feel extremely guilty, like I should be here giving their lives meaning, somehow, even though I know that's not my responsibility. I just feel like even when I'm living away there's part of me that feels like I should be living in my hometown so I can see family and old friends more often, and it torments me, and I think it all stems from these feelings that they pass along. Can anyone relate? I just don't know how to handle the situation at all, and I felt guilt about it for 10 long years now. Too long didn't read. My parents make me feel bad about not living with them even though I'm a 32-year-old adult. So, do you feel this way a few weeks after the visit? Like, are you pining for this town, friends and parents? Here's the thing, my parents like to pretend my presence gives their lives meaning too. They're certainly not chasing their own happiness the way they could and should, so they throw it on my shoulders. The kindness slowly turns into a guilt trip. If you did live there, in the town, not with them in their home, do you think they'd be capable of boundaries? Your second paragraph, I relate to 1000%. I guess if they just had lived themselves I wouldn't feel so much guilt about it, but they don't and don't try to, so their kids, just my sister and me, are their lives. When I'm away it's hard for me to even want to visit because I know I'll immediately be stripped of any feelings of independence. But once I've been back for a week or so I can easily fall into feeling comfortable being around friends and family, which isn't really good for me in terms of trying to carry out an adult life. Could probably visit more than I do, but it's not super easy to do so, as it's either 2 flights, no direct flights, or a 15 to 16 hour drive. Kind of late to the party, but both my husband and I used to be those kids that their parents guilted for not seeing. For a shorter version of my husband's story, his parents don't have a social life outside of each other or their kids, with very little interaction with their siblings. His mom bounces back and forth between being a stay-at-home and going out into the workforce for odds and ends jobs, while his dad is an engineer. We have come to the conclusion that his parents are upset because 1, their kids were their entire lives and they were overly involved/protective, and 2, my husband did not fit in with the life plan they had envisioned for him, which we believed consisted of him living nearby and visiting multiple times a week and continuing that tradition with his wife and 2.5 kids. My version is similar to his, minus the life plan part, and adding that in a lot of ways, I was the do-over baby/daughter I never had for my grandparents. When I had to move back in with my grandparents briefly as an adult, I had a curfew. I had to have my friends meet my grandparents and get their approval to hang out with my friends. I had to begin attending church regularly or I would need to find another place to live. I definitely recommend reading books about the fog, fear, obligation, guilt, to help you process some of this. It's worked wonders for my husband and I, even though no one would consider either of our parents abusive. Too long didn't read. Don't move back in with your parents. They'll start treating you like a teenager again. My parents are like this. It really touches me. They want me around so much, but I also ignore it when it gets too much, and remind them that I'm an adult and would like to live life on my own terms. I'm appreciative because should anything happen I'll always have a home, but when I'm at home I don't feel like a fully functioning adult with my own space. If you really want to stay in your town, then you can get your own place independent of your parents. You can also see them regularly without living with them. I mean, it's up to you, but visiting parents and living with parents are 2 very different situations as a grown person. What's love and attention now may feel like smothering when you don't have a departure date, or it may be the best thing to you. That's highly subjective. I also don't know what the cultural background is, but a 32-year-old man living with his parents is going to have fewer social and romantic prospects where I'm from because it means less privacy and more interpersonal variables. If that's not the case for you, cool, but consider the larger picture and what moving home would look like if you lived there again and tried to have your own life, not just the warm fuzziness from being a celebrated guest. There's also a large difference between living with your parents, around your parents, near your parents, and far from your parents. Op is far from at 900 plus miles. I would suspect that Op's parents really mean that he should move back around them, but that it's easier for them to say more about the current living situation rather than trying to dictate that he move closer. Even only a few hours away by car is a much different relationship than 900 plus miles away.